that is the Gold Cup hero. Two of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounding Cordon Star into submission.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Racehour podcast, brought to you with our friends at bookmakers.co.uk. I am here, Dean Ryan, in the towers of bookmakers.co.uk. Diarmuid Nolan is here.
How are you, Dean?
Very well. And Paddy Aspell is back. Paddy, good to have you back.
Hello, lads.
Oh, geez, Paddy, you in your bathroom or something?
Sorry, I just shut the window so your man won't bother us anymore.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. Paddy's at Jack Berry House, of course, doing his catch up. So it's good to have you on, Paddy. Welcome back to the Racehour podcast. Got some great racing to talk about from previous weekend, and when we get to the second part of the Racehour this week, we will be talking about the return of Altior going up in trip, hopefully against surname. What are you calling them, Demo?
Surname. I'm sticking with that.
They should spell it right if it's surname.
Yeah.
Surname. Anyway, we'll get there. That'll be in the second half. Okay, so do remember, if you are listening to the Race Hour, do give us a rating on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Give us a big out. It's great to have you all aboard. We're looking forward to this week's show. A decent week for us again last week, Dermo. Put the Kettle On was a winner for you.
Put the Kettle On was winning for you. Was that your fourth nap in a row now at Defi Desai?
Defi, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've never done that before. So I'm glad you highlighted it.
We're in uncharted territory here. Yeah, no, Put the Kettle On was very good. And the point I made mightn't ring true for the rest of the season, but I just don't think Getaway Trump or Al Dance or any of these horses are definitely not up to an Arkle, and I'm just not sure that they're anything special. They might be interesting if they can manage to keep their marks down for something like a Grand Annual. I think is kind of where they'll peak. I don't rate them at all. So Put the Kettle On won, just like all the Henry de Bromhead chasers, jumped absolutely brilliantly. She was a real sight to behold, but the whole form of the race, you can kind of forget it, I think, really.
Potentially, yeah. I think you might be right. We're all looking forward to seeing Lorena jump a fence, and that might be where the Arkle market gets a real shake-up. Those two have been the early protagonists and now put in their place by Henry de Bromhead. No-hoper, but perhaps not a no-hoper. Anyway, let's move on, because we want to talk about some of the other horses that ran during the weekend. Faugheen and Douvan are back, Diarmuid Nolan.
They were, yeah, and both of them were excellent in very different ways. I thought Willie Mullins spoke very well after the race, as he always does. And he just said that if Douvan was a 5-year-old that had come from France, you'd be absolutely chuffed with that performance. And that's not wrong. You know, what the horse did now, the substance of the form, Jet, he is what he is. And Monley is always absolutely brutal on his debut. So it's form that you wouldn't be ringing home about, but that's not the point of what happened. Douvan was off for nearly 600 days, and he put up an absolutely monster of a performance, so you have to be thrilled with that. Where he goes afterwards, it looks like he's going back down to 2, which I think makes absolutely perfect sense. He doesn't look at a stayer to me at all. His class got him home in that race, in my opinion, and him and Chacun Persois are very interesting, going forward. And then Faugheen, like, his jumps were kind of sketchy at times and everything else, but the engine is there. Everything you want in him is still there. He's a really serious pony, and it was just absolutely brilliant to see him do that. It was a real heartwarming win, because last season he did look like the towel was thrown in, but real champions like him, their temperament never really drops off completely, and he still wants it, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I thought one of the crazier decisions I've seen in racing was to send an 11-year-old Faugheen over fences, but they did it. So, yeah. And it paid off. And the horse is fine, obviously enjoyed himself. Delighted to see that. Douvan now is a slightly different take, because still mileage in the tank, you'd imagine, at 9 years old. Paddy, you would have seen both performances. They both maybe didn't look as good as ever, but geez, they're still good.
Yeah, they are for sure. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's certainly, as far as Faugheen goes, it's a little bit hard to swallow, I think, jumping fences, because you just watch him and, I don't know, he jumps a fence like a horse who has been hurdling all his life. Look, he is getting made a B, but Town had done very well to sit on down the back, and then he pitched at the back of the third last, and it was just pure ability, and obviously the engine is still there, and he did clear right away from the back of the last, but I don't know. I don't honestly know how well it sits to me seeing him jumping fences, but then people will say, look, they're race horses and that's what they're here to do, but God forbid, you just worry that he's been such a good servant down the years. If something was to happen to, especially Faugheen jumping fences, people are going to be very quick just to stick the knife in a little bit. But nonetheless, if he can get from A to B, he's going to take a bit of beating, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the risk they took with Faugheen. Maybe not so much with Douvan only being 9, and there's, if he's fit to race, he should be racing. Faugheen, it's a massive risk. I hope for both of them, actually, and people won't agree with me, I don't think, but that you keep them both at home this year. I wouldn't be travelling them. I wouldn't be overfacing them. I'd pick up the races that are available to them in Ireland. But, maybe I'm in the minority there, Demo. What would you do?
I'd agree with Faugheen. I think kind of a swan song at the Punchestown Festival next year would be kind of perfect for him in a novice chase. I'm just not sure whether his jumping would stand up at Cheltenham. Now look, it's his first run, it could well improve bundles for that, but I think he was just clearly the best horse in that race. It's very hard to know where we stand with him. It will be some story, but Douvan, I still think that's a bit different. I think he showed that he still jumps that really low arrow-like. I know he made the one mistake, but he's still plenty young enough that you can push him to see how far that he can go. So Douvan, definitely not. I'll be travelling with him. I'll be doing whatever with him. But Faugheen, I think he owes nobody anything, and I will be looking after him anyway, definitely.
Okay, I always felt they looked after Douvan early in his career, and they shouldn't have done. And now they maybe run out of time to do that. So you could be right. Maybe they just got to go Tingle Creek, or they've just got to go whatever the opportunities are, just got to go and throw them in the mix. Altior moving up in distance, which looks likely, does open up a route there, but like you said, they've also got Chacun and Poussoir. Fascinating times. Rich Ritchie's got the band back together.
It certainly does.
And we'll see them on tour during the season, so looking forward to that. Another Rich Ritchie horse, I'll come to you on this one, is Saldier. The hipster horse has come good and won a champion hurdle trial, and won it very well, now right near the top of the betting for that champion hurdle.
Yeah, he's a very underestimated horse. He'll continue to be after this run, understandably.
Can't be underestimated now, 4-1 for a champion hurdle.
No,
but
estimated. Just mean there's still people out there cribbing the form, which I do understand. But like, yeah. I was down at Punchestown with, and I was there with Mick McGuinness and Steve McGuinness, two confidants of Rich Ritchie. And before the race, all the talk in the ring, and Betfair reflected it, was that Sharjah was the one of their two that was really suited to it. The ground might have been a question mark, but he was the one to come forward from it, and that Saldier badly needed it. When I looked at him going around the parade ring, that's all you could think. You looked at him, he looked chubby, really, for the want of a better phrase. Okay. Classical Dream looked really, really fit, really ready to go. Now, I'm talking with someone who does not have the eye for this, but still, he looked more than ready to go. The market reflected it, but he was really on his toes, kind of didn't settle at all, kept trying to go back out of the parade ring again himself, so he can be forgiven that. I think it was his first day at big school as well, but it was just how Saldier came to the last and just went away from him, how much he drifted before the race. He badly needed it. I mean, that's his first run since he broke his nose last year, so it's a brilliant performance. And that champion hurdle, what is there, 3 or 4 horses that come in the race, and he's one of them now? Like,
only one.
Yeah,
only one that come in the race, Demo. I go on record.
Yeah,
Bouvardais. But I have to say I was impressed. I didn't expect him to win because of the Classical Dream confidence that was behind that horse.
Behind him,
Paddy, I mean, you're the man for the eye for this. Classical Dream jumped the first like it was a ditch and absolutely flew it, and was so fresh in himself. He'd probably come on an absolute bundle for that, but he's going to have to, because he's been put in his place by the bigger boys there.
Yeah, he was very fresh, wasn't he? I mean, you could see him early doors. I mean, he had his head on the floor with Paul Townend, and like you said, he was very big at the first, and he just done enough wrong, didn't he? And in the end, he's done enough wrong to get himself beat. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Morgania has been a little bit of a graveyard over the years for favourites, to be honest.
Faugheen was beaten by,
Nichols.
That as well, Nichols Canyon, yeah.
He was beaten by Nichols Canyon. But, I mean, Dermo has always, fair play, mentioned about Saldier, because we've not seen him since that Nace race. And like, that form now is looking so rock solid, isn't he? Obviously, unfortunately, we haven't got Gavin Cromwell's horse with us anymore. But I mean, that is rock solid form. And obviously, did you say he hurt himself at Nace that day, Dermo? He
broke his nose so badly that Willie Mullen said afterwards the X-ray looked like a bag of cornflakes. It was a very bad break, and they probably could have gone back, as Danny Mullins was saying afterwards, they probably could have got him back, Paddy, to be there at the end of last season, but Willie Mullins thought he'd just benefit from those few extra months, and it clearly has paid dividends. But yeah, he's very smart, isn't he?
Yeah, no, that was good. And, I mean, the thing is, look, they still have time on their side because he's only 5. But, Petit Mouchoir, he took them along at a real good old rattle. And in fairness, he's done well to only get beat a length and a half in the end. But, yeah, couldn't help but be impressed by Saldier. Obviously, the third Classical Dream, he was very skimpy. So you're going to be disappointed. But I think on the day, he just done enough wrong to get himself beat. So I don't think it was, I don't think it was true ability. He did just do enough wrong. But Saldier, certainly a horse on the improve, and great training performance to get him back from a year off to turn in an effort like that.
I agree with that, and we don't really know how far Saldier can go. We're going to find out. So right to be in the mix for a champion hurdle, wrong I think to be at the price that he is. But then what can the layers do? Like, that is the bit of form that we have. Bouvardier.
We haven't seen Penton Hills yet.
Exactly. What can they do? So that's where you are. If you want to row in now, that's the price that's available. Unfortunately,
25s in the first podcast.
I know, and you were absolutely spot on. You're now on a nice ticket if you got involved. Bouvardier apparently is thriving. Will miss a racecourse gallop, go straight to the fighting fifth, no doubt dot up, and then be vying right at that top of that market again. So jury out on Classical Dream, but I do think there's plenty more to come from that when now that one run is out of the way. So interesting champion hurdle picture shaping up. Let's talk about a couple of slower boats that ran at the weekend. That probably been a bit harsh to a former champion hurdle favourite in Yanworth, but they worked out he's finally a stayer. Now they've worked out he's a Banks horse. I thought he did enough to enter that picture. Dermo as a leading fancy.
He did. I heard people say afterwards that they were kind of worried about him staying in the 3 mile 6. I thought if anything, he was just kicking in when when the race was coming to the end. He looked too slow to go past him at one point, and I thought, he's in trouble here, and he just stayed and stayed and stayed. Like, I think the distance won't be a problem. I think nothing beats Tiger Roll. I think that's the simplicity of it anyway. But Yanworth has to be his biggest challenger. I mean, he's done more over hurdles. He's done as much, if not more, over fences. Yep. He's a really proper challenger. And then the French horse, obviously the one that beat Orgent de Gragan as well. That horse looked,
Cleo, wasn't it? Dallier or something.
He looked really impressive as well. So it's a very decent year for the cross country. Tiger Roll's obviously still the one to beat, but Enda Bulger sweetened this horse up something fierce. That was a really good training performance. And Mark Walsh is a jockey that really deserves a mention as well. He gave that a peach. He's giving everything peaches of late altogether, and I thought he was absolutely superb.
Okay, I was impressed enough. I expected him to win, and he did go and win. He's 10-1, I think, now behind Tiger Roll in that cross-country betting. It's nice to have a potential match-up there, Paddy.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, the thing is, I'm not really sure. Would Mark Walsh, would he normally ride in them Banks races or not?
He does. He does, Paddy. The likes of him and David Russell and them seem to just love them. They'll kind of get on anything. Donny McInerney would ride more so than Mark Walsh, but when there's a good one, Mark Walsh wouldn't shy away from it.
Getting off this one.
He wouldn't shy away at all from it. No.
Yeah, he's definitely got a chance here.
I suppose it's just probably more so the Cheltenham cross country races. A lot of the sort of more senior lads don't ride in the Cheltenham races. But the other day, I mean, the thing is, there was some proper good Banks horses in that race the other day, and in fairness, they didn't take Yanworth out of his comfort zone at any point during the race. Turning in, the horse who made the running, he's a proper Banks horse, and he made a real good fist of it, but they never really had him under any serious pressure, jumping wise, and you could see, several of the pictures of him going around. He really, really enjoyed himself, and the thing about him is, you watched him go down to the last, which was a hurdle. He actually pricked his ears and had a look at it, because I'd say since he's gone to Enda Bulgers, he's probably not jumped a conventional hurdle or a fence since the minute he got there. He'd have jumped everything bar, I'd say, just to sweeten him up, and banks and walls and everything. But no, that was real good. And I mean, the thing is, I looked down to his record the other day. He hadn't won since he won the Dipper. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. The Dipper at Cheltenham. So it was a massive performance to bring him back, and great to see him.
Yep, I agree. I'm looking forward to him staying over Banks and giving Tiger Roll something to think about. Tiger Roll's injury doesn't seem to be anything too significant, so they don't seem to have any concerns they will get him back. And then you've got the Cleo horses coming in. That actual race has a bit of a focus around it for the festival. Of course, there would be with Tiger Roll in it anyway, but you don't want it just a parade. You want him to actually go and win the race if he can. Battle over Doyen, I was under enthused, but I seem to be in the masses there. We might have a Keith said klaxon coming on here in a second. Demo, Battle over Doyen?
Yeah, I said it on Twitter on Sunday, and Keith said it yesterday in his piece as well. I don't see the negativity with this run. He was running over 2.5 miles, clearly a 3-miler. He beat Any Second Now, who's a Cheltenham Festival winner, who's rated 150. He stayed on past him. RSA horses don't have that much of a turn of foot. He doesn't have it either, really. It didn't look like it anyway. As well as that, he backed up relatively quickly enough from Galway, so that kind of spark might have just been out of him. I thought he did everything that he could do. He won the race, and whilst the RSA potentially, we haven't seen a lot of them yet, is looking like an absolute belter of a race, he deserves to be where he is in the market, and he's beaten there 150 rated Cheltenham Festival winner who's had 10 more runs than him. So the experience he would have gleaned from that as well is huge, and I thought,
Okay.
more power to him.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, he definitely deserves to be where he is in the reckoning for races like that. Like I say, I was a bit underenthused. The fact that a couple of fences were taken out of the race maybe didn't help him either. He's a big old brute. Enhanced his reputation, Paddy, or not so?
No, God, I'm with Dermo. I was impressed because I just think his jumping is fabulous. The other day, he done everything like...
Yeah.
That downhill fence, I know there was a couple of fences out, but that first one, when they turn along the side of the track before they turn in, that fourth last, I mean, Davy Russell, he really gunned him down to that, and he put down on him. And I mean, at the time, obviously, it's a downhill fence, but for such a big lad, he put down, and he was absolutely mustard on his feet. I mean, he was so quick. For me, 7 out of 10 horses would have busted that fence and probably come down, whereas he ended up not touching a twig. He's very, very good. Fair enough, the second horse, he's no mug. He got him at it turning in, but when Davey wanted him down to the second last and he really had to stretch him, he's come and he was brave, and same again down to the last. He needed him and he's asked him up and he's not let him down. And I mean, I certainly wouldn't take from that performance at all. It was nice to see that he can go and sort of grind it out as well, but the big thing that is going to stand to this horse is his jumping, because although he's the one blip so far is at Cheltenham, people are always going to be against him until he can tick that box. But for now, I think his jumping is really going to be his A game.
Okay. Anyone wants to check out that column as well on bookmakers.co.uk from Keith. He does talk at length about Battle Over Doyen and not to be disappointed with what I felt was an under-enthused performance. But that's my view. Let's talk about Cheltenham, chaps, because we unfortunately lost the Friday, but we did get some cracking racing across Saturday and Sunday. Why don't we start with the Betvictor Gold Cup? It was won by Kerry Lee's Happy Diva, who was unfortunate in the race the year before and when it got it done this time round. But we have another unfortunate story from the race this time round in the likes of Slate House, who's actually gone and got a £6 rise, I think, for hitting the deck, which is very tough on him. But I'd imagine that's only fair, and there's probably a Caspian Caviar Gold Cup in them if he's none the worse, and he comes back. Happy Diva, Dermo, kind of just desserts really for a hard-working team and a good mare.
Yeah, look, Kerry Lee is very similar to Venetia Williams, isn't she? In that when the ground starts kind of collapsing, she starts thriving. And I thought Happy Diva was very good. Now, like the whole dynamic now of handicaps at Cheltenham, it really does seem to be changing. Looking for the unexposed sorts doesn't seem to cut the mustard at all anymore. You're looking for the likes of Happy Diva, Breland Das, all these horses that have been there and kind of done it before. And I know Slate House was probably going to win the race. You'd have to be very confident that he was, so he would have been the underexposed sexy horse. But if you look at the horses all in behind, they're all horses who've been there, done it. Happy Diva was off her highest ever rating. So the whole thing of trying to look for these kind of lower weighted horses doesn't really ring true. But the only horse apart from Happy Diva who was very good, and Slate House obviously, I thought Magic Saint was eye-catching enough. Kind of travelled very well, kind of couldn't get into it like a lot of them behind couldn't. But Magic Saint, I'd imagine he'll still be a big price next time for something like the Caspian Caviar. Slate House is going to be massively overbet now on the back of that.
Oh yeah.
So the likes of Magic Saint definitely I think is worth a go afterwards.
Okay, Paddy, it was a good Betvictor Gold Cup, as Dem was saying, kind of like the older warriors coming to the fore there, the ones that have been and done it around Cheltenham. You might be making a good point there. I thought it was a very good ride by Richard Patrick as well.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, I think this was deserved for Happy Diva, wasn't it? Because has had some close calls around Cheltenham, but generally has got a pretty good record around there. But I mean, there was a big gap back to the third. A great winner for Kerry Lee. You know, just she had a very, very moderate year last year, and fair play, certainly things look like she's going to have a better season this time around. But yeah, it was well deserved. Good ride by Richard Patrick, and it was a good day on the big stage for him because he is a capable lad that probably an awful lot of people haven't seen much of, you know.
Yeah, I would echo that for sure. And fair play to them. Big day in the sun. Slate House will have another day. Hopefully he's none the worse for that fall. And like Diarmuid said, he'd probably be overbet for a Caspian Cabaret, but he's pretty much overbet for this.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
gone wrong. Just shows you what can happen even if you have the right horse in a big competitive field like that. Let's talk about some of the previous top bumper form coming out and going in all over the place. Time Hill won again on the card at the weekend. Blue Sari was a winner as well. We're not going to see Lights and Malone Road now this season, unfortunately, but Time Hill just doing, I think they're very, very happy with that horse at the Hobbs team, and almost going under the radar by mopping up the early stuff.
Yeah, Hobbs' team is flying as well. It has to be noted. Since he kind of came out of that smoke of the kind of the sickness in the yard, he's really flown. He's a brilliant trainer. But like the first 6 in that champion bumper now have come out and won since. And Allen looks a machine. Blue Sari, trip-wise, there's a bit of question marks. I still think he's a bit of a stayer, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. People seem to be thinking that he's speedy. I thought he needs a bit of a further trip, if anything. But I'm known to be wrong, Dean. But Time Hill is very good, but I just, every time I watch him run, I just keep thinking hopefully he doesn't bump into Allen, who's clearly just...
They're probably thinking that too, but they're winning while they're not going to bump into each other, so that's not the worst thing in the world. This bumper form looks strong, Paddy, and so the horses that are coming out are making it look so, obviously.
Yeah, it's rock solid so far, isn't it? You really couldn't grab it at all. I mean, Time Hill certainly looks like a horse on the improve, and great to see the Hobbs team doing so well now, and they've got a real good one here in Time Hill, and like I said, Blue Sari as well. And just in the last couple of weeks, that Cheltenham bumper form has taken several boosts, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. You mentioned, I mean, we've all mentioned waxing lyrical about Hobbs and their kind of return to form, and some good horses about Defi de Soy being the stable star winning there. And, well, I thought it was more impressive than certainly the length and a quarter will look on the records there. But to win the Schlur Chase like he did, Paddy, pretty impressive. I'm not even sure 2 miles is trip, to be honest.
You know, it was a very good effort, wasn't it? I mean, he does like Cheltenham Defi de Soy, doesn't he? And Barry Geraghty has always had a very high opinion of him. But, I mean, I suppose it was just a bit disappointing the way the race was run. You know, the fractions were very, very moderate, to be honest. And then, obviously, that third last fence out. I mean, you know, there was 4 horses in a line jumping the second last. Really, going round the third last, they still hadn't actually got racing. It was just a proper dash from the turn in, really. And, I mean, even the likes of, you know, Simply Ned, who, although he was 6 1/4 lengths behind Defi de Soy, if he hadn't have made which was a very, very costly error at the second last, he could have been a good bit closer. But, you know, Simply Ned is 12 years old. And I just thought visually on the day, it was a disappointing race to watch. Good that Defi de Soy did come back to form, because on the day it looked maybe visually like he might actually need the run, but very good effort. But I just was disappointed the way the race turned out. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody to take them along at a proper gallop, but still, nonetheless, he's enhanced that good Cheltenham record of his, and it was good to see him back to somewhere near his best.
Yeah, it's a big boost for Lights of Lost in Translation when Defi goes and wins, and likewise when Lost in Translation goes and wins, a big boost for Defi de Soy. For me, Dermo, for a horse that was cribbed beforehand in terms of reappearance runs, they obviously got plenty of work into him, and I don't think they may have done enough with the Lights Politolo from the front end, and that might have just thrown it at Defi de Soy, but he still had to go and do it, and it almost looked like when Barry does press the button, he will win. And that's what he did. Yeah,
but we're talking about a 2.5 miler who showed more pace than a bunch of 2 milers. So,
exactly,
Defi de Soy deserves massive praise. I'd be firing him into that 2 mile division out
they're going
this
to
year. Yeah, like I think the speed he showed. Altior has proven that staying 2 milers are the way to go, really. Yeah. Obviously, he'll have Chequham Poursuit to worry about, but we don't really know how good he is yet. Now, he did put Defi in his place, but Defi was coming back from, Defi won't be the first or last horse to flop after Cheltenham.
Touch of the reserve tanks about Chequham Poursuit. I'll come in at the end, beat up the ones that have been going to the parties all the time.
Really impressive, no doubt, but we need to see more from him first before we commit to it. So I'm very impressed with him. Kind of obviously holding fire. I wouldn't be backing him yet for anything else. Like, you need to see him do it again, but the options are really open for him, because let's say you do go to a Tinkle Creek with him, which I'm not sure they will, or whatever, one of those races, he shows he doesn't stay 2, he stays 2.5. Next season you could even think about going up to 3, so he's one of these horses that he's a joy to own, because the options are are endless.
Yeah, I think he's a Gold Cup standard horse. Whether he can extend that far out and trip, I think he's at that level. And if they can do that with him, that would be very exciting for next year. Ryanair, for me, looks like an absolute penalty kick for him this year. But it's entirely up to connections. And, of course, JP, him and Frank will have the final say about what they do. Hobbsy will do as he's told. Let's talk about the Greatwood. I was just a bit... obviously, my pick didn't go too well. Cantista ran okay in midfield. And actually, the two Henderson horses were a little bit disappointing on it. Alan King had lined one up though, Paddy, and Harambe was the winner at 16-1. He was mildly confident about it, but I don't think punters were all too involved.
No, 16-1 he went off in the end. This was a funny old race again because, I mean, on paper it looked like they were going to go a million here pace-wise, but they literally hacked up all the way past the stands, and it wasn't really until they set away down the hill away from the stands that they actually got racing. I thought it was a very good ride by Tom Bellamy on Harambe, because in the Persian War at Chepstow on his return, he was far too keen and gassy, and he just couldn't get him anchored at all. And he actually done well to finish where he did. But with the sort of fractions they set the other day, he's done well to keep his lid on. I know they did have a run into him and got some gas out of him, but still, he's done so well to get him settled. And I thought the horse in third, he's run a blinder, Michel Lecoq, because he was jumping his hurdles like fences early doors, and he was given a positive ride by Lizzie Kelly in the end, and he was only run out of it late on. What else was there? Gumball got a real good run down the stand side under Ben Jones. He's run well, but I thought the horse to take out the race for me was the fourth horse, Quid Enough of Evan Williams's.
Yeah.
He's only 5-year-old, and I thought Adam Wedge gave him an absolute peach of a ride and delivered him just at the right time, but he's still quite green and inexperienced, this horse. And as soon as he jumped the last, he started to run around, and he just covered ground that he really couldn't afford to cover. But in the end, he wasn't beat that far. But it was a very, very exciting race, and nice winner for Tom Bellamy, and hopefully it will just help him now that Wayne Hutchinson is retired, just to get him up the pecking order there.
Yeah, seems to have landed himself in the right spot with Alan King, doesn't he, Demo? And Harambe, if you look at the second and third, Gumball and Monsieur Lecoq, Gumball was in red hot form.
Yeah.
It obviously won really well last time.
He was a very good horse too.
And Monsieur Lecoq could be something pretty special for that team. So I guess it's a decent front three.
It is, and the fourth, I'm the exact same as Paddy. I have him down here as being one of the real eye catchers of the race. The other one I had as well was Dame the Campaign of... I think that's you say it. Really outpaced badly. Yeah. Really outpaced. Something like the Coral Cup, if they could get her mark up, she'd be running there over 2-4 at Cheltenham. It's not that she didn't handle Cheltenham, she was fine at Cheltenham. It was just the pace of the race, which I know wasn't plentiful. Just 2 miles is not her bag whatsoever. Yeah. So she's a horse that once she goes up and trips, she'll be very interesting, because she stayed on so powerfully at the end. That ground looks to me like that's exactly what she wants. And just before we take our break, obviously as well, there was one horse in the same colours for JP McManus who ran yesterday, a bit off topic now, at Fairyhouse. If anyone hasn't seen how well unaccepted won yesterday off a 753-day break, it is definitely something to watch, because JP McManus has one hell of a team this season. This horse, a typical Willie Mullins and JP horse, you don't know where they're coming from, but they just seem to come out and win easy. But JP McManus now this year has a serious team.
Yeah, it's really shaping up. You don't know what Joey has as well that we haven't seen yet. There could be a few raiders to come out of there just yet. Okay, I'm assuming there's nothing else to catch up on over the weekend from what was some really nice races at Cheltenham. Thank God they got Saturday and Sunday on, or it would have been a very blank first half of the race hour this week. Okay, let's take a break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about Ascot, Haydock, and the Troy Town at Navan.
You're listening to the Racehour podcast, brought to you by bookmakers.co.uk. Check out bookmakers.co.uk each and every day for tips, news and the best odds for horse racing. Looking for a new bookmaker and the best sign-up offers in the industry? You'll find that at bookmakers.co.uk, sponsors of the Racehour.
Okay, and welcome back to the Race Hour podcast, brought to you with our friends at bookmakers.co.uk. It's myself, Dean Ryan, Diarmuid Nolan and Paddy Aspell. we're in the second half of this week's race hour, so what we're going to do is take a look at the racing to come up from Ascot, Haydock, and a little bit of Navan on Sunday, and we'll try and find a few winners for you. There's only really one place to start at Ascot. Is the Christie 1965 Chase, Grade 2 affair, which is a big class drop for one of the Howard wrestling. Altior likely to take on, well, I'm going to call him surname, but everyone else thinks calling him surname. Could be a field of 5 lining up here. Paddy, last year you were telling me that Altior looked like he was dossing at 2 miles, like he was getting a little bit bored, that there was potential for him to absolutely go and floor himself at some point. It didn't happen. He managed to get away with it almost last year, mopping up everything over 2 miles. It's great that he's gone up and trip. 2 mile 5 looks like the return for Altior, and he's taking on the top rated chaser in the UK. Pretty remarkable stuff.
Yeah, it's unreal when you look at the ratings, really. When you look at what Altior has done and what Surname has done, I really can't sort of come to the conclusion how Surname is rated a pound higher than him.
It's a mockery.
It's just, I was looking last night. I mean, obviously Surname has improved, and he's 2 years younger than Altior. He is improving, but when you look at his record compared to Altior's, I mean, how they can come to them figures is just an absolute mystery. But nonetheless, that's the way it is. But yeah, when you were saying about Altior, Dino, the thing about this horse is I've just found it's only in his last 3 races that he started doing this thing to the jumping to the left. Now, he's not just done it round right-handed tracks. He done it at Cheltenham as well when he ran in the Queen Mother. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter left-handed track, but he still did it. But it was in the Clarence House in January that he started doing it when he beat Fox Norton. Now, in the end, he won by 7 lengths, but I mean, it was really drastic that the jump to the left thing. But he did it on a couple of occasions when we last seen him as well at Sandown in the Bet365. Fair play to Connections that they've set them up and trip because they always knew that they were going to bump into Surname. So you've got to take your hat off to Connection because they could give each other the runaround, couldn't they? And keep winning, keep this unbeaten record. But fair play, and you've got to take your hat off to Connections. But this is going to be very, very interesting because although I did crib Surname's his new mark, them last 2 performances, the last one in particular, I mean, just what they've done with this horse, I don't honestly know, because really, before the last 2 wins, it was just off the back of, it was a 56-day break. What they've done, I don't honestly know. But, I mean, them 2 performances, both at Ascot, I mean, first one, he's won by 21 lengths. Next one, he's beat Waiting Patiently by 17 lengths in the Betfair Ascot Chase. Just phenomenal. And the way he travels and jumps, just so strong, very exuberant. This is going to be very, very interesting. But the thing about here is, although he's up in trip, obviously they're going to be able to take their time a little bit on Altior, but he's going to get a lovely tour around here. So I'd be really disappointed if I see him doing this business out to the left again, because you would think he's going to have a bit more on his plate here. The fractions are going to be stronger. He's going to be a bit more on his A game. So I think we've just got to wait and see if he does go back into this old routine again, because he can't afford to do it. Not off level weights with the likes of Surname, who is really on the improve.
It's fascinating. I don't know whether Nico is even having sleepless nights over this, to be honest, because when you look at Surname from where he started off last year, and Paddy, you rightly point out, he seemed to improved out of all recognition to do what he did against Waiting Patiently and the likes of Politologue and ASO, and that race actually decent horses in behind. It's not just a freakish performance, although it was a freak performance on ratings in the end. For me, Nico will just do whatever Altior wants to do and should dot up. How can he not beat Surname? I think I'll have to. I'm going to say I'd give up the game, but I won't do that because I know I'll be here next week.
You do know that Surname's mark is actually, you can trace it back to being Q Card's fault.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because it's Waiting Patiently beat Q Card really easily in the Ascot Chase the year before. The handicapper has a real problem with bringing these horses back down in rating. Leaves them where they are. It's an emotional thing which shouldn't happen. Q Card was waning that season. His rating should have been dropped accordingly. What happened was he was left in the high 160s because he'd previously achieved that level, and what happens then is Waiting Patiently beat him, so you have to push him up to be a 170 horse. Then Waiting Patiently is not as good as that, as we found out since, despite the fact that I absolutely love them, but he's not as good as that. Surname beats him then by 16, 17 lengths. Well, you've no choice then. You have to push him up to be the best chaser, because you're kind of running then and you have to vindicate your marks that you've been giving all along, and that's the way it's worked out. Surname is a very good horse. Altior is meeting him here in his backyard. This is where Surname puts his best performances in.
Yeah.
He's a typical Paul Nicholls horse, and that Paul Nicholls just improves these horses no end. He's an amazing trainer, but all being right and all being fair, and if he does stay, which we think he should, there's no reason Altior shouldn't be beating Surname. If he doesn't beat him, we'll never see him going up and trip again. He'll be straight back down to 2. I really hope he wins, just for that reason, because Nicky Henderson is putting out all these sounds that he might be too speedy to stay. You can see, I think he half regrets saying anything about this at all. But Altior should go up and trip, and I think he'll beat Surname. But it's a definite watching race. But if Altior is the race he is now and he's declared, it'll be hard to stay away from that price too.
I'm very kind of torn between, what is he, 11:08 on, thinking that's just a gift pre-Christmas. But the trip, I'm thinking, what if he goes attacking it early on and he blows himself up? It's fascinating. I'm probably not going to wade in, but I think I'm going to regret not wading in on the basis that even if Surname was getting a stone, I'd want to back Altior. Paddy, will Altior beat Surname?
I think he would. Altior is a horse that, every time you look at him, you just think, are we ever going to find the bottom of him?
Yeah.
Because, we've seen him do so many daft things in races that he's doing it because he's not in top gear. So that, for me, we've yet to get to the bottom of him. So it's going to take an absolute massive effort by Surname. But this is going to be his stiffest test to date. And Surname, like I say, he absolutely loves it around Ascot. He is a proper racehorse, this Surname. But Altior's just a freak, and I'd have to agree with you, Dino. If he was still hovering around that price, I'd be happy to fill my boots.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, that is exactly where I'm at. I just think the only danger to him is himself. And I probably feel that way in a King George, providing he gets this done too. So yeah, fascinating. It's great to have it. Fair play to Connections if they do go through with that at the weekend. And Surname takes on Altior. We'll see whether the old ratings guys have got it anywhere near right. They're wrong, by the way, but let's see if they've got it anywhere near right. Okay, let's move on to some other races at Ascot. It's not all about the one race, although it kind of is. The 240 is the Coral Hurdle. Call Me Lord is priced up here as favourite. We'll see Roxana again. If the cap fits, is potentially to line up there for Harry Fry, Grand Sancy and Le Patriot, and then a few of the rags, which include the very admirable Little Rockefeller. Do you have a horse for this, Demo?
Yeah, I thought Roxana's going to take the absolute world of beating here. If the cap fits, won this last year, but he's £6 higher this year, so that means that there's the exact same weight differential between Roxana and If the Cap Fits as there was at Aintree when there was only a head between them. Roxana that day was kind of was up to 3. This is more her trip, in my opinion. She is a Mares Hurdle winner, blessed Mares Hurdle winner, but still she would have been a very good second on the day anyway. So I just think she's really classy. She's getting weight all around here. She gets £7 again from If the Cap Fits, who's a really admirable horse who Harry Fry has done a wonderful job with. But I think Roxana is very good. She was unlucky last time at Aintree when, I think, as brilliant a jockey as he is, if Harry Skelton got that race back, he might ride that a bit differently. She Top Notch was kind of given a bit of a run, and when he tried to come back on Roxana, she just kind of couldn't quite get there. She's a super mare. She's fit. She's ready to go, and I think 11-4 is a whopping price on her. Okay,
I'm kind of in the If the Cap Fits camp. I know the trip is a little bit down. You have to respect Call Me Lord as well, because this might just be the ideal trip for Nicky Henderson's horse. Probably does revolve around these 3, Paddy.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting. I've seen Harry Skelton at a winner at Lingfield yesterday, and they interviewed him, and he did say that they were quite tempted with the entry she's got in that listed mares race at Kempton as well. She's also got an entry in the Hatton's Grace on that's a bit further. That's the first. But they were saying that the ground at Kempton, they could be quite tempted because it's going to be nicer ground. So just be interesting to see whether she actually turns up or not. But I think did run very, very well on reappearance at Aintree. Another couple of strides, she'd have been back up. I'm in agreement with Dermo there. But I thought this was a very interesting race. If the cap fits for a 7-year-old, his record is pretty good, fresh. Likes it round Ascot. Obviously won this race last year, but he's got very few miles on the clock, and he's in really good hands with Harry Fry. Le Patriot, interesting to see. When I did look last night, Dicky was jocked up. I can't see him jocked up there. Is he jocked up on your side? Le Patriot?
No, he's not at the moment.
Interesting. He was jocked up last night because that form of that horse is really rock solid. But and the other one you mentioned, obviously, Call Me Lord as well. That was a good reappearance run last season. He was he's been very, very unlucky, this Call Me Lord, on several occasions. Very, very unlucky in the long walk. He's no back number at all. He's rated 160. The exact same as If the Cap Fits. Quite a tight race, this.
Yeah, I think it's really tight between the top three. I mean, Dermo's super confident about Roxana, but I think you could back any one of those top three and just take your chances. I'd probably side with If the Cap Fits, but I've no real intention to go steaming into this race. I'm looking forward to it because it does look pretty hot contest. The 320 there is an interesting race because Diego de Charmil versus Capeland, round 2 is on. If they can negotiate all the fences, that'll be some feat, Dermo.
Yeah. It could be sold alongside the Ruiz fight, couldn't it? To be on Sky Box Office.
This is the undercard of Altior versus Siren Aim, and Frank Warren's in the corner going, here we go.
Yeah, it's a very interesting race. Diego de Charmel is jocked up, which is very interesting with Lorcan Williams, obviously keeping the ride there. Yeah. Diego's only gone up £6 for that run, which isn't going to stop him whatsoever. But Capeland was completely left unaffected. So if he does run, you can see why, but the two of them are going to be over bet for obvious reasons. I saw during the week there that Paddy's old buddy Knock the Nuts has been well backed for this into 6-1 now. But the one that I was going to chance at a big old price, at an old enough age now, but he's a real likeable old devil, is Speradek at 12 to 1.
You're going to say Vanatu.
I've never been
it is, yeah.
Big Vanatu fan, but Speradek will he won't be stopping. He'll get in here nicely at the weights. He's well overdue a win, but it was in this race last year that he was a brilliant second behind Cad de Lin, and so he should definitely be running here. And I just think at the odds, with the fact that his weights are dropping at the moment, he'll run off £8 lower, but that'll reassess itself on the day. But at 12 to 1, I just thought that he's definitely worth a poke.
Okay, interesting. Paddy, your take on this chase? I mean, I'm quite keen to ignore what happened between Diego de Charmel and Capeland last year and have a look at this Evan Williams horse, who could be anything the last day, who looks really exciting. But I was hoping for a much better price. That one's already head in the market. Paddy, where are you going with this?
Yeah, no, I was. You took the words right out of my mouth about the last day, because that race at Aintree, he went round so full of running. I mean, sometimes Adam Wedge, he's one of these lovely quiet riders. It's hard to judge. He's very sort of Paul Maloney-esque. He sits very quiet on horses. Sometimes it is hard to judge how much horse he's got underneath him, but nonetheless, this chap at Aintree absolutely bolted up. And I'm just looking on racing admin. He is jocked up, Adam Wedge, so hopefully they are going to turn up. He's got a lovely racing waist. I mean, if Dolos isn't declared, the weights are only going to go up £2. So at worst, he's going to have 10-12. Diego de Charmel will carry top weight. But very, very interesting, this chap. But same thing, the bookies they didn't miss that Aintree performance either. They were quite taken. I mean, his record is pretty good. For a 7-year-old, he's very, very low mileage, Dino, and he's a horse that's really on the improve. 142 now. I still think that Evan Williams could do a bit of damage off that mark.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he looks potentially the one to step forward from them who've been taking each other on and destroying fences around the country, as we know. Let's have a look at Haydock. The 225 is going to see Liz Nagar-Oscar return to hurdles potentially for Rebecca Curtis in their Stayers handicap hurdle. 3 miles and a half a furlong in front of them. Umbrigado's in here for David Piper, who of course had his little peak back in the form at that November Cheltenham meeting, and he'll set the standard perhaps. But I'm quite interested in Liz Nagar-Oscar going back over hurdles, because I don't think chasing is where they're going to make much hay this year. And there's an interesting runner in there for Anthony Honeyball, who I know they think a lot of, which is AC Milan. Paddy, I might go to you first in here. There's 3 or 4 horses I like in the race. Looks a tricky one to sort out at this stage.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I mean, you've got to be. I was desperately disappointed with Lisnagar Oscar, because I wasn't disappointed he got beat on reappearance, but I mean, God, that race behind Tom George's horse at
Black Op,
Stratford.
yeah.
I mean, he literally he was never involved. I mean, he was beaten nearly a distance in the end. So disappointing. And I mean, obviously connections have gone back over hurdles. Obviously, he's got a good record at the track, Lisnagar Oscar. When I did look last night, Brian Hughes was jocked up to ride him. Have you got Brian Hughes your end?
No jockey here on the Racing Post, Paddy, but
Really? Did look last night. He was jocked up.
I'd say they're going to go here.
Eh?
I'd say they're definitely going to pitch up here.
Yeah. But this is a very, very competitive race. I think, look, off the back of that Stratford effort, I would just, I do like Lisnagar Oscar through that Dickie Diver form, but that Stratford one for me would take a bit of forgiving. I know obviously it's a different, they were the larger obstacles, but he's got to. He's got something to prove now after that effort. I thought there was some more interesting ones here, to be honest. I thought obviously Umbrigado coming back off a 231-day absence, but he's got a good record, this horse. Fresh, the yard are in very, very good order at the minute. The pipe team, I thought the Skelton horse was interesting. Flash of Steel, that was a good effort last time. And obviously Champagne Court, who he was in receipt of a good bit of weight from last time at Chepstow. He's gone and absolutely bolted up twice over fences since Champagne Court. So that form looks pretty strong. Bridget Andrews is jocked up as well, so it looks like they're maybe going to go. And then there was a horse right down the bottom, whether they go or not, but Sam Twiston is jocked up on one for the team. He's going to have a lovely racing weight, 10 stone 3 for Nick Williams. He's only 5-year-old this. He's got an awful lot more to prove than some of the others here, but, he is very, very low mileage and unexposed, and Nick Williams is having a pretty good time of it. So he could be one of the more interesting ones as well.
Yeah, it's a fascinating race, Demo. I mean, there's plenty in here you can make a case for. Like, I didn't even mention a couple of my other favourites in the race, like the Stony Mountain, that could line up here. I could be struggling to nail my colours, I think.
Yeah, I've actually backed two in this morning. Kilbrick and Storm, first of all, who's a horse who's obviously been very frustrating. I think Fences last season just really soured his whole season. It just went very wrong there afterwards. But he's on a mark now that he can definitely strike off. He'll be high up enough in the weights, but that wouldn't worry me too much. I think he could just be the real class one of these. He's an Albert Bartlett winner. That's decent form. You've got the likes of Santini back in third that day, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with that form. I was thrilled to see a bit of money this morning for him, so I have backed him. I think off the mark there's definitely a race in him if Tizard can just get him back. And then the other one that I've backed as well is Dolphin Square at 20-1.
You didn't go last week, right?
Yeah. I fancied him last week for Cheltenham. 1/2 miles 5.5 at Wincanton. Looked like whatever trip you wanted him to stay, he will stay. And an honourable mention has to be given to Mr. David Maxwell. Paddy, he doesn't look the most comfortable at times, but he's improving a lot, Paddy, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's keen as mustard, isn't he? And in fairness, obviously, he's a wealthy fella. He puts plenty of money into the game, and he's keen to ride them himself. I do think he has improved a bit. There's no doubt. But look, he's the owner. He pays the bills. If he wants to ride them, he rides them. But fair play. I mean, he's had a pretty good run of late. But from a punter's point of view, it's a bit difficult because, from the back of the last, whether he's on the best horse or not, unless he's got an awful lot in hand, if he is jumping the last upsides, Robbie Power or Harry Skelton or Dickey, you've always got to have that in the back of your mind. But nonetheless, he is having a good run.
Sure, he's running them for himself. Like, he doesn't care whether you got your tenner on or I've got my tenner on. And
he's not going to sack himself either,
I
is he?
love that. Like, fair play to him. I mean, as a punter, Paddy, you make a good point. You don't want to be steaming him because anything could go wrong, and he's got far less experience than anyone else. But he's having a good go at it.
He gave that one at Cheltenham a peach last weekend as well, to be fair to him. But yeah, definitely. Look, the finish is always going to be a concern with him. But I think this Dolphin Square will be staying on. He got up to win by a head last time under David Maxwell, so it's he'll have his chance if he does turn up. But again, it's 16-1 for Kilbrick and Storm and 20-1 for Dolphin Square. I'm kind of happy to take my chance there.
Okay, I think we've mentioned the winner I do. We've mentioned at least 9 of these. So we will be claiming that next week to know which one it is. Dermo seems more confident than the rest of us, but an interesting race anyway. That field might shrink a little bit, but it does seem like most of the connections are pretty keen to go and take that stairs hurdling. The Betfair Chase is on, gents. It's normally Bristol De Mai day. I'm not sure it will be this time round, Dermo. Lost in Translation is in to take him on, along with actually Ballyoptic, who's massively improved, and I see Altior's entered, but we can scratch that. Faugheen is in there too. Yeah,
it's between the top two. Altior's obviously, it'd be madness to go for this straight off the bat, but Bristol De Mai is a horse that does not get enough respect. This is now a Gold Cup third, a horse that ran well in the JLT. He did this race last year on good ground. He keeps answering questions to people, and people just still don't really respect him. He's a very good horse. He's put in some monstrous performance, but Lost in Translation would rank really as being the first kind of up and comer that's coming for him in this race. I mean, last season he beat Might Bite and a Native River, but them two horses never came back from that Gold Cup battle they had, really. And so I think Lost in Translation is a completely different kind of animal that he'll be facing, and I'm not sure his run will continue. I loved Nigel Twiston-Davies. Did you hear him after Ballyoptic won?
Yeah.
But sure, we have the winner of that race in the yard already. I love that smack talk.
He's actually said he might throw him in for a bit of place money this week, which is twisting all over.
I absolutely love that. But I think Lost in Translation, the way he jumps, everything else, as I've said before, it won't lend itself to a Gold Cup in my opinion, but it'll lend itself beautifully to this race and to King George. And I think at 13-8, that's a bet, really. I expect Lost in Translation to win, but it's going to be some test, Paddy, because Bristol De Mai around this track this time of year is as good as you'll get. So you're going to have to go and beat the actual. It's a home game for Bristol and away game for Lost in Translation.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, he's 4 from 4 at the track now, isn't he? Bristol De Mai. He goes well fresh. He is the highest rated in the race, only by a pound from Faugheen, mind, who is jocked up. So you imagine it is going to turn up. But I mean, the thing is, you could maybe sort of label Bristol De Mai that he just sort of slugs it out at times. But he has won this race on decent ground as well. I mean, they're giving the chase course just soft, and it's a little bit better on the hurdle course. So, I mean, he has done it on varying grounds around there. He's the horse to beat, but he is coming up against, improvers. Even though Ballyoptic is 9, he has looked better than ever this year. I mean, obviously, he's won... he won the big one at Wetherby last time. He's got a bit to do with the weights. He's 11 pounds shy of Bristol De Mai. Lost in Translation, he's the same. He's not very well in at the weights with Bristol De Mai. He's got £9 to find. But I mean, that performance the other day, I mean, look, you can't really go down the form route with the Carlisle race, but I mean, literally, he just looked so well in himself, and he looked like he really enjoyed it, and without having too hard a race, you'd hope it would have brought him forward. So this is going to be a big test for Bristol De Mai, because he's the one who's got the crown at the minute. But I think this probably, as far as meeting improving youngsters, this is going to be his biggest test to date. And I think I would be happier to be with the Tizard horse here, because I just love Lost in Translation. He's another horse for me. He really is very difficult to get to the bottom of. Yeah, I think the three of us are in Lost in Translation's camp, which is, as Dermot said, rather unfair to Bristol De Mai. But, if we're not taken by him, we're not taken by him. Faugheen, Ballyoptic, Elegant Escape make up a super supporting cast for that Betfair Chase. It will be one of the most fascinating races of the weekend. Lost in Translation could shoot to the top of a Gold Cup market should he win, whereas Bristol De Mai, if it wins, will just be, it's Haydock and it's Bristol De Mai, and and Lost in Translation isn't as good as we thought. I can't wait for it. It's going to be fascinating. There is a big race on Sunday as well, Dermo, that perhaps we might throw in to the mix, and it's the Ladbrokes Troy Town at Navan. Yeah. So again, it's a hashtag Keith Donoghue said, but it's he put up Ravenhill on Monday on his blog at 20-1. That horse now is tumbling down through the market. Gordon was very complimentary in press this week as well. Yeah, as well, and in his own stable tour, he mentioned this race for the horse and the 4-miler as well. So look, he's working very well at home, is what Keith said. He was 20s, he's still 14s about to place for him. He was very unlucky in that Kerry National, and the horse that he was second to in Poker Party, he's a proper horse too. So it's
is very good form. This is actually a cracking, really, really good renewal. You've Tower Bridge there, who's second favourite, who's very interesting. You've Portmore Lock, who could well go off very, very short for John Kiley, because he'll get in here off a very low mark. And when John Kiley has one ready, you know damn well to follow it at times. But just shorten up for me. There's one here as well, at 16 and 20s around the place, is Ask Susan for Willie Mullins. This horse has been very well backed on several occasions. Doesn't quite seem to get the job done, but is clearly on a good mark, because connections are obviously no mugs. So she strikes me as the kind of horse that when the money's not on and everyone forgets about her, is the day when she'll absolutely dot up somewhere. And something like the Tri-Town with a really strong pace in front of her would really suit her. So she's there, but it's very hard to drift away from Ravenhill at 12s, who just looks a cracking bet, really.
Yeah, stable confidence behind Gordon Elliott's yoke there. That's Ravenhill, currently around 14, 12 to 1. I thought Chris's Dream would be interesting if it turned up in here. There's probably room off 1, 4, 6. Mixed it with some good horses previously, but then all fell apart. Punchestown.
And Puppy Rides as well.
Yeah, Chris's Dream, I'd imagine, can certainly show some of these lighter weighted animals what to do in there. What did you make of the Troy Town, Paddy?
It's going to be a proper slog, isn't it? I mean, I really enjoyed this race last year. He won by 2 per me, wasn't it, of Noel Meads.
That's right, you're a big fan.
Yeah, there's no hiding place in this contest. And I mean, I like Discorama, but he's a horse. He has had, obviously, he lost out in the 4 miler, didn't he? But, we have seen horses come back from that race. I mean, after you watched that at the festival last year, you thought, Jesus, they might as well retire all them horses, because they're not going to come back from that. But, we've seen Mulcahy's Hill has come back, and even Discorama after that race actually ran all right at Punchestown, didn't he? So he's an incredibly resolute horse. To say he's 6-year-old, he's very, very tough. But he's got 11 stone 10 on Sunday. Plenty of weight to carry around. But he's a very, very good horse. I do like him. Chris's Dream, as you mentioned, has got some course and distance form. Portmore Lock, I mean, God, he's going to be in there off 10 stone 6. Lovely racing weight after a couple of wins around Galway. But he's going to have to step forward again. He's 8-year-old, whether he's open to as much improvement maybe as others off a mark of 131. I don't know, it's debatable, but you certainly couldn't ask for him to be in any better hands than John Kiley's. But it's a very, very wide open race. But I wouldn't like to desert Discorama, but if he was to win, that'd be a series weight carry performance at 11 stone 10, but he's priced up accordingly, round about 10, so where he should be. But it's a wide open market. I mean, it's 13 to 2 the field.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that on Sunday.
They still haven't decided, have they, between the Hennessy and this race for Discorama, so he'll be in one or the other, which is... And
even the fact that they're thinking about it must fancy their chances in one of them. Otherwise, it's just, well, he's not quite ready. We'll stay at home.
I'd love him in a Hennessy.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely love him in a Hennessy, yeah.
Can see that.
Yeah.
Plenty of talent in Discorama, and he'll have to carry a big weight there and beat a few weighted types. Jeez, I'll get there in the end. I'll go with Chris's Dream. I know Dermot's keen on Ravenhill. Fascinating Troy Town. There is some really good racing on Friday. I just want to throw at you. I think Angel's Breath might line up in the opener there, but I mean, if that field turns up for the opening novices chase, like Birchdale, Aegon Deschanel, First Flow, Mr. Fisher probably won't take him on, but still going to be a fascinating race. Torpillo is actually in that. I'd also mention a couple of others on the card through there. Fred, who was I thought eye-catching last time. Master Debonair will run again, and Red Force 1. Friday is a decent day's racing. Does anyone else want to pick anything out from the weekend to come before we do naps?
Yeah, so on Saturday in the 210 at Goran Park, Ronald Pump is entered. Really, really interesting. Matthew Smith is a cracking trainer who just improves these horses no end. Ronald Pump won a handicap hurdle of a very high weight at the Punchestown Festival last year, and the performance he put in on his chasing debut, he absolutely hammered Gettybird. He beat the field just like in the shape of a very good horse. Because he'll hail from these these connections, he won't end up being a shorter price as I think he should be. So in the 210 at Goran Park on Saturday, if he does line up, Ronald Pump is extremely interesting. And then one there in the 150 Haydock that if he turns up, 9 to 4 at the moment, he's going to be much shorter, is Midnight Shadow. Sue Smith, her stable of late, they can't buy a winner. And it was really shown that when your luck is out, it's out. Last time at Carlisle, this horse was going to win by maybe 20 lengths and came down when really had the race at its mercy. And before that was running a really eye-catching race behind the Ollie Murphy horse, brewing up a storm. So Midnight Shadow, if he turns up in that 150 on Saturday at Haydock, will take the absolute world of beating.
Okay, a few more then to keep an eye on over the weekend. Paddy, if you've got anything else, spill. If not, let's have your nap of the weekend, please.
Yeah, it's interesting what Dermo says. Danny Cook was in here the other day and he was on about Midnight Shadow, Dermo. He said he definitely would have won at Carlisle.
Yeah.
But he said the race wasn't completely in the bag. That's why he had to fire him at the last. But it was only his second run over fences. And in fairness, he said he just changed his mind. Literally, as soon as he left the floor, he said he just changed his mind at the last second, or like literally in midair. And the first thing to hit the fence was his chest. And although he did get a dirty old fall, he said he was none the worse. But he's got a fair engine, that Midnight Shadow. But that just shows about Sue Smith. She hasn't had a winner since April, and that looked like it was maybe going to be her first one. But
Yeah.
she's not getting the rub of the green at the minute. But no, he's a fair horse. Yeah, there was one, Dino, that I liked in the first at Haydock in that listed novice hurdle on Saturday.
Yeah.
This is a very, very good race. Be interesting to see whether our mate turns up, Red Force One, going back into novice company. That'll be interesting because although he won't be the highest rated in the race, you know, that valuable handicap experience that he's got could really stand him in good stead. But there was a horse in here of Jamie Snowden's who was in the process. He was going to win he was going to get the hat-trick up at Wetherby last time, but he just literally, he didn't even make a mistake. He just stumbled on landing at the back of the last at Wetherby, and he was going to get the hat-trick up that day. I mean, he's rated just shy of 140, this horse, and Jamie Snowden is having a very, very good season. I think he looks the real deal, this the Banner King Rebel, and if he turns up, this is going to be a very, very warm race, but he's got that experience on his side, so I'd be happy to be with him.
Interesting. They could take on likes of Fred and Red Force One, and Jamie Snowden will be hopeful, I'd imagine, to get the Banner King Rebel back to winning ways for sure. Okay, your nap of the weekend, Paddy, is that it, or is there another one?
No, I was going to go back to the horse we mentioned earlier, the Evan Williams horse,
yeah.
The last day.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he can follow up that entry effort, I just think, you know, he won with a fair bit in hand. Obviously, the handicapper has reacted, but it'll be interesting to see how far he can go. But he's low mileage. Evan Williams' horses are in real good nick at the minute. And I think Adam Wedge is riding out of his skin. So, you know, I wouldn't have any worries on that front at all. So I'd be happy to be with the last day.
The last day in the 320 at Ascot. Dermo.
Hashtag Keith said, so the Ravenhill in the Tri-Town on Sunday.
Okay, my nap of the weekend was going to be the last day, so I was struggling.
Altior.
No, I can't do that. I don't want a nap lost in translation either. I don't want to jinx that poor horse being the one on the 5 time. So I'm going to stick with Evan Williams' horse. I do think it's a decent bet in a race that is not going to take as much winning, and certainly off that mark that he's on, I think he's got everything in his favour for that 320. So it's a double positive for the last day. Ravenhill for Dermo, and wherever Angel's Breath, Fred, Master Debonair, Red Force One, you can count them all to me. How's that? Okay, that's the end of the Racehour for this week. Thank you all for listening. My thanks to Paddy Aspell, thanks to Douvan Nolan, thanks to Alex on production. You've been listening to the Racehour, brought to you by bookmakers.co.uk. We'll chat to you all next week. Come on, Altior.
You've been listening to the Race Hour, brought to you by bookmakers.co.uk, your best bet for tips, news and bookmaker reviews.